I was in Aurora, Illinois, conducting a training session for the YWCA when the word came. And just a hushed silence went over everybody. And I soon got a call to come to join the civil rights leadership at the White House. And I'll never forget the way in which everybody was trying to help me get off. Every woman, black or white, was just in shock. Everyone wondered what would happen. And I went straight to the White House, and Lee White was there to greet us all. Because the real issue that the president faced was, how can we keep this from being a great disruption? How can we hold down some of the feeling? And how can we keep from having really much more struggle, much more anger coming forward?
What kind of advice did you and the other leaders give?
I think we were honest. We had to say that we could not predict what people would do, but that somehow there had to be some way in which it was known that this country did not condone this kind of thing, and that our government was ready to take action. And it was a kind of time when we ourselves had to reinforce each other, because it was a shock. There was just no question about it. And I remember the discussion was slow. No one had answers. We all had questions. All of us were deeply moved, because here was a person who preached nonviolence, and he was the victim of violence.
How did you feel about him as a person? Did you consider him to be a friend?
Oh, I loved Martin Luther King Jr. He was not only a friend, but one of the things I liked about him was his attitude and his respect for women. I'll never forget, in a speech that he made at the Riverside Church, he spoke about the contribution women had made. He couldn't say enough about his gratitude for women. And he would say, from the 72-year-old woman who, in the midst of the Montgomery boycott, in an ungrammatical way, when someone asked her to take a ride, she said, "No, my feet is weary, but my soul is rested." And he then talked about the way in which women had responded and had been so supportive.
So personally, there was a real closeness.
Affinity, yes, a real association. I felt very close to Martin Luther King Jr. and to Coretta.
How did you handle the grieving part for the loss of your friend?
Well, I think like everyone, I had to realize that we had to ask ourselves, how do we make sure this is not in vain? How do we keep the movement going? And it's no cliche to say, how do we make sure that it's understood they might have killed the dreamer, but not the dream? I think that was the spirit that everyone had.